Hey everyone, welcome back to the Triathlon Weekly News Roundup presented by TheDailyTri. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's going to be a little bit of a quicker episode this week. Just 5 main points to go over. I might keep to that into the future, so let me know what you guys think. But this weekend we had quite a bit of racing you might not have known, and I'm going to fill you in with it because it was pretty exciting. Then we'll get to those headlines, and of course, tucked in there, we've got the video of the week, the article of the week, hot question, as well as ending on some humor of the week. So let's get into it. I'm so excited. Triathlon season feels like it is right around the corner. Plus, also being able to watch a World Triathlon race this weekend was exciting, especially because Hayden Wild, the clear favorite to win World Cup Napier, didn't win. He was beaten by Callum McCluskey. But it was intense and exciting because he was making his way all the way from the back. He was 40 seconds down off the swim, which is not great for him considering the Olympics are not too far away. But he will take a lot of confidence from the mind-blowing 13:52 5K that he ran during the race. I mean, I didn't check the stats. I wish I did, but I think that is one of the fastest ever 5Ks we've seen. I could be a little off with that, but it is just a stunning performance. Of course, the course accuracy and everything like that weighs into it. But then somebody I was really intrigued to watch also at that race was Kasper Storns, who's competing for one of those Norwegian Olympic spots. He ran a 15:42 5K and obviously didn't have a great race there. So it'll be interesting to see how that Norwegian Olympic selection plays out. But on the women's side, we had Sophie Lynn from Australia take the win there with a dominant performance on the run. She is looking in good form. The mixed relay team also won with her. And then I was also intrigued to see that Gina Serino, who's fighting for one of the American Olympic spots on the women's side, which is so tight. She finished in 7th place, which isn't too great for a World Cup race, but she did have the fastest run. So that's a good sign for her. But then speaking of fastest run, Gwen Jorgensen took the win down in Cuba at the America's Triathlon Cup there. It was just a bit of a rust buster race for her, and it all helps bolster her bid towards going to the Olympics, which is most likely going to be decided at WTCS Yokohama or from the selection committee from USA Triathlon. And next up, she's racing Abu Dhabi with 5 American women on the start list total. And interestingly, that doesn't include Katie Severes, which has got to be one of her prime competitors for getting that Olympic slot. Again, 3 maximum US women. So it is really going to come down to the wire. I'm not quite sure why Katie isn't racing down there. If any of you know, let me know down below. But yeah, can't wait to watch that one. Don't miss Abu Dhabi. But moving on from there, we also had the Husky Triathon in Australia, which Radka Kalafelt won pretty dominant fashion on the women's side. And then Henrik Gosch with a little bit of an upset over the local Tim van Berkel. And then finally, there was a 10-kilometer race that featured 3 triathletes that I know of. Emma Pallant-Brown ran there and took the win with a 32:33. Peter Hemrich was running for the men. He ran a 30:28, which is pretty good for a long course athlete. And then Joe Skipper came in 9th place overall with a 31:33. So not quite as quick as Hemrich, but all pretty quick times for those 3. And then there was a 5K race that Cassandra Beaugrand took part in, and she was one of the top competitors for the Olympics this year. And she ran a 15:34, which is rapid for the women. So it was a great weekend of racing, but kind of some smaller races, but good fun to keep track of. And this weekend is Ironman New Zealand, which I talked about a little bit last weekend with some pretty exciting big names on there. $100,000 prize purse, silver tier PTO event. So some good points on offer and prize money. And of course, slots for the World Championship. We got the likes of Braden Curry, Steve McKenna, and Justin Metzler is heading down there as well. And then on the women's side, you've got Amelia Watkinson, Chelsea Sodaro, Rebecca Clark. It is pretty stacked. And I'm excited to see how Chelsea goes over the full distance again. Didn't have the best season last year, so really excited to watch her this year. I'm surprised also with that race, Javier Gomez isn't on the star list. I know he trains and races a lot down in that area. And that just goes to show me that he must be 100% fully focused on the T100, probably not thinking about Kona is my guess. That would have been the perfect one, I think, for him to try and qualify and get to Kona if he was going to be racing it. But it looks like he's all in on the T100. But moving on from there, let's dive into the headlines quick because I already feel like I'm taking up a lot of time. First off, this one comes from Triathlon Insights. Somebody sent him this link to an article with Perez Salah, which basically leaks that she got a wildcard slot from the PTO for the upcoming Miami race. I don't think she was meant to share that right away. Yeah, she got some last minute notice, which is a bit of a criticism for the PTO from before, where they don't give these athletes much time at all, and all of a sudden they've got to compete on the biggest stage for the most amount of money and also for the most amount of points right now, which is super important for them to get into the T100 in the future. But she found out right after she booked a trip to Chile, apparently. Then she had to cancel that and book flights to Miami now. And they also made it sound like on there that the wildcards were going to be given out based on rankings. She said that she was told there were 3 wildcards for the boys and 8 for the girls. And she got one in the end because of the 8 in front of her, 4 had given up their spot. So I wonder if the PTO are going to make those wildcards a little less wild this year, make it based on the rankings. Thankfully, we'll know soon enough because they're due to announce those wildcards anytime now. And yeah, I'm sure there's room for 1 or 2 for short course athletes, for example. And Joe Skipper posted an image on his story of some T100 requirements before racing, which was pretty interesting. It made it seem like it's becoming a lot more like World Triathlon now, and this partnership is starting to show. So yes, definitely looks like some more strict standards. It kind of makes sense to me if they do it based off of ranking. It's basically based off of merit in that case. Although I love to see some wild cards and see what they can do. There's definitely, I think, some athletes lower in the rankings who could perform better at the PTO, for example. So yeah, again, really exciting piece of news that I don't think should have come out. But second one also comes from an article which I found from last week, and that was from tristats.com. Great website, highly recommend it. And that was about Flora Duffy. And Flora's kind of been like Gustav Eden a little bit lately, where she's been quite quiet. She hasn't raced since November of 2022, according to this article. Basically said that we might not see Flora Duffy on a WTCS start list for quite a while, or we might not see her on one ever again. Because of that low ranking, she can't get a start on these races, and also because she's focused on the T100 Tour, she'd have to race a lot of World Cup races to get enough points to get on those start lists, and that might not be worth it. She'll definitely be racing the Olympics as the defending champion, so does it make sense to even try and compete in the WTCS series as well? Or after the Olympics, does she try and get a spot for the last race in Malaga at the grand final? Maybe, not with the T100 Tour. So yeah, fascinating article, highly recommend checking out. It's a quick read, but yeah, it could be pretty much the end of Flora Duffy's short course career, which is kind of crazy to think about after the Olympics. But moving on from there onto a little bit more fun news, Daniel Bækkegård, not homeless anymore. In his latest video, he's saying he has got a place in Noosa in Australia. If you've been following along Daniel Bækkegård, he's been looking for a place to call home basically, and he was trying to get a place at Club La Santa where he trains all the time but couldn't get one there. Reached out to Belinda Granger, who seems to have gotten him a place in Noosa, where Ari Clow, you might recognize, is swimming at the moment. And yeah, it just looks like everybody loves Australia, wants to move there and train there. And yeah, it seems like a place that would really suit him. And of course, he had that great Ironman result there at the end of last year, so it makes sense. He also shared on there that he's looking to get qualification for 70.3 World Champs by racing 70.3 in the Philippines right after the Asian Open in Singapore. So that sounds like a smart move, and Daniel Bækkegård looks like he's got a busy year this year. Moving on, number 4, Lionel Sanders' documentary might be upcoming. Now, I don't want to spoil this too much, but Talbot Cox hinted this on an episode and a podcast with Mike Riley, which I think is just brilliant. A huge Talbot fan, as some of you might know. And yeah, wouldn't that just be awesome? A full Lionel Sanders documentary. Go check out that episode to hear Talbot talk about him and Lionel's relationship and so much more. But speaking of documentaries, how good was Lucy Charles Barkley's documentary on the PTO this week. Of course, that's my video of the week for this week. So excited to see PTO keep putting out these videos. And I just love it seeing triathlon put all this effort into telling these stories. Like the Ironman World Championship Series documentary this year, I thought was better than ever. And I loved how they put it out in episodes. And I wouldn't be surprised if I turned on Netflix soon and I saw triathlon sitting on there, the brilliant documentary series, which is the dream. But finally, moving on to the big headline of the week. This one comes from Kristian Blumel and why he didn't choose the T100 Tour. He opened up with Jack Kelly quite a bit, and there's a good few headlines in here. But yeah, he just is really all in on the Olympics and Kona this year. The two races he feels like he is missing, he said. But what really caught my eye was listening to him describe how winning Kona is going to be much easier than winning the Olympics. And just the way he said it, he just really believes that he is gonna win Kona this year, and like no questions asked. And yeah, the Olympics is really his main challenge. And that's my hot question of the week is, do you think that's the case? Do you think Kristian is gonna win Kona? Nobody's ever done that before where they race right after the Olympics straight into Kona and win it. It's such a short amount of time to switch up from short course to long course. I mean, that would just be mind-blowing, but yeah, he really 100% thinks he can do it. But he also, on that podcast, updated us on Gustav Iden a little bit more. We know Gustav's been a little bit quiet, but it just seems like that injury is still plaguing him. He's not 100% just yet. It sounds like he still needs to put a full run week together. And his best bet, it seems right now, to qualify for the Olympics is also going to be Yokohama or Cagliari and getting a podium there, which seems really, really tough considering everyone else is trying to do the same thing. And then he also mentioned that Kona might be the potential comeback race for him. So that would be really fun to see. And then finally, Jack pushed him on some yes or no's of who could win a PTO T100 race. And he said on there, Alistair Brownlee and Javier Gomez was a no. And I think that is just a massive call out for two legends of the sport. Is he right? Is Alistair Brownlee, Javier Gomez not gonna win a T100 race? That, I don't know, it seems, to me, that just seems like something that shouldn't even be said. But yeah, I can see why people think that with all the injuries and they haven't performed at their best in the recent years. So yeah, curious to hear your thoughts about what Kristian said. And then one last thing which I thought was funny is it does seem like he does have FOMO for not racing the PTO, because it sounds like he really wants to take a crack at Max Newman, as it seems like there's still some beef between him and Max from that comment after winning Ibiza.
No bullshit science.
But moving on from there, some fun stuff. And this one first comes from Deboer because they have partnered with the T100 for the next 3 years as their wetsuit partner. Of course, that's exciting for me. I love partnering with Deboer myself. They really do make the best wetsuits, and I just love mine. I'm actually so bummed out right now that the weather is bad and I can't swim in it more often, but you actually might be able to swim in one before I do, because they are giving away a Fjord 3.0 with this announcement. All you have to do is go to winadeboer.com. The link will be in the description, and you can pick yourselves up one of these Fjord 3.0 wetsuits if you're lucky enough. And yeah, all you have to do is sign up. And I thought that was awesome. Moving on from there, I saw an update from Ironman, and this isn't to do with the pro racing, but this is to do with age group racing, and that is their new My Ironman profile website that they released, which shows so much information. It has your results and your splits on there from before. It shows nearby races and a lot of other cool features. I personally didn't want to look back on mine. I didn't need to see mine again as I have gone so well, but I definitely thought this was a needed addition. As we all know, we love our stats. We love talking about them and comparing them, and I'm excited to see what else they add to this in the future. I think it's definitely a great starting point. And then real quick, I saw this one on a PTO careers page. You don't know how I stumbled on there, but in that they advertised that the 2024 race season would have a French Riviera race. Now I heard this first on Jack Kelly's interview with Sam Reynouf, but yeah, it looks like this race fell through, must have been at the last minute. So it could have easily been 9 races for the PTO series. But I think we can expect it next year. And yeah, I wonder if it's going to be Nice as well. Is it going to be Monaco? Wouldn't that be sweet? I think French Riviera is perfect to add, especially if we get some more hills in the races. Of course, you guys know I love some tough courses. And lastly, final thing, I promise, that was way more than 5. But Joe Skipper and Jackson Laundry rivalry is heating up. If you didn't listen to my podcast, Jackson Laundry called out Joe Skipper as his rival. And I put it on Instagram. Joe, of course, picked up on that and says Jackson will get his shot at 70.3 Oceanside. They'll both be racing there. Jackson reckons he can crush Joe Skipper over the middle distance, but I put it on a poll on Instagram, and 62% of you reckon Joe Skipper will beat Jackson Laundry. So that is going to be an awesome race to watch. Can't wait to see those two duke it out. But finally, we're ending it on the humor of the week. This week comes from Tom Oosterdick.
Quick cuddle with Run for Dino before we're going for a run.
This guy is just a comedian through and through. If you haven't listened to his podcast, Triathlon, not great. Couldn't recommend it enough. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in this week. I know I went way over my rapid fire episode. I'm always just excited to talk about triathlon. And as you saw in the intro, stay tuned. Next week, I've got some exciting news I think so many of you will be stoked about. So thanks, guys. Have a good one. We'll see you in the next one.